Hi, this is the Chronicles of Apple from the apple of my eye, and this is the third one that I'm making, and this is in regards to the classification of black and white. And what I wanted to show to people is that that classification was made historically in order to actually divide and conquer people. Okay, now United States is a very influential country. It also has a lot of Freemasons, and Freemasons is one of the reasons why we have so many misconception. The idea of Zionism became very, very corrupted. Okay, they made Zionism look terrible because the Freemasonry are being considered Zionists, and that is not a fact. They are Satanists. Many of them are Satanists in Freemasonry. And I say that is because it is based on paganism. And in that particular group, they like to attract Jewish people and African American people. Now, they also attract many of the influential people all around the world. Freemasons are not just black or white, quote unquote, black or white. They are also, they could be Muslim, they could be Jew from a Jewish background, but they will suck them into Freemasonry. A lot of the presidents are in the Freemasonry. So um, I want people to look at Masons. As you can see, it says here, there's all types of Masons. Okay, and let me read this. Presidents, scientists, composers, musicians, clergyman, general, comedian, golfer, congressman, president, and astronaut. Well, they have presidents twice in here. Now, the idea that people are black and white. Okay, look at this. Okay, Freemason, black and white. Duality. Black and white has a meaning. I said it before. Black meaning, obviously, the underworld, darkness, okay, death. And then white being the beginning. It means purity. Okay. So you will see that a lot of Freemasons, they like to attract influential people, and they will also suck in a lot of Jewish people and African American, largely because those two groups of people have a very strong charisma. They make good cheerleaders, they're good at selling, they're good at promoting, and they're very attractive. Okay, I'm not talking about just plain prettiness. If you put a black person in Asia, everybody's going to look at that dark-skinned person. Everybody, there's something very striking about them. The same thing with Jewish people, they emit a certain energy. Okay, so these are black Freemason. Okay, now the black Freemason was started around the 1700s, and I have it somewhere in here. Now, Freemasonry in black and white. Okay, again, you will see black and white. Black and white floor. You will see it in a lot of the celebrities. Beyonce being one, she's involved. Her husband is involved in the Freemasonry. She likes to dwell into the occult, and she likes all these demonic possessions. And this one is like one of the Indian, paganism, Indian goddess that she's trying to channel. Okay, and you know who this is, her husband. He's definitely in Freemason. We'll show it right there. That's him. And they try to promote this black power. Now, what does the Bible say about black and white people? Well, here's the answer. Okay, this is a question. Are there any black people mentioned in the Bible? And it says, we can say with a fair degree of certainty that yes, the Bible does mention black people. Actually, no. Although the Bible does not exclusively identify any person as being black-skinned, neither does the Bible specifically identify any person as being white-skinned. A person's skin color is rarely mentioned in the Bible. The color of one's skin is meaningless to the basic message of the Bible. The vast majority of Bible's narratives takes place in the Middle East. Okay, now Middle East, as you can see, is part of Asia. When you say Far East Asian, those are the Chinese, the Filipinos are Far East Asians. Okay, so what do you call the Middle Asia? Okay, there's the Far East. Okay, so what about the Middle East? What are they? They are Asian. So in all technicality, everybody is, if you're talking about location of the origin of man, it is in Asia, because you're talking about Middle East and Turkey. If you're talking about Euphrates River and Tigris, okay, wherever there's a tiger, there is Euphrates. Okay, that's the way to remember it. That's where Adam and Eve came from. So they came from that, and then eventually, then they had a lot of children, and more or less their children are of all different colors and hair textures, because they're quite fertile and they live a very long life. So they had a lot of children. So look at these pictures here. To explain it a little bit, if you got a dark-skinned man with a very light-skinned woman, these are the children. These could look Latino, that could look Indian, that's, looking European. Okay, this also looks kind of European. If you've never seen the parents, you can just say that she's a European girl, but she's not. She's actually mixed. And they call it race, but actually it's almost as though they make it sound like, people have different race. Actually, no, they just have some little bit of the genetic predisposition more dominant or gone. So if you lost certain genetic trait, you would look like this. If you married somebody else who's also pigmented, your children gets the coloring back. Okay? But all the same species. We're all one species. So technically it should just be one race. The Bible doesn't talk about race. It talks about different tribes and nations, and it talks about tongues, meaning language, but it doesn't talk about that you are black or white. God does not take precedence or doesn't give much importance to your coloring. It is just a way that He'll want people to be diverse. Okay, so it says, are there any black people mentioned in the Bible? I think I talked about this one. So, where does this Freemasonry came from? You can see this is a very good diagram. I love this. It kind of shows you. Okay, can you see it? Let me hold it there for a little while so you could read it. You can see Marxism in there, ancient mystery religion. You see the Kabbalah, Gnosticism. You see the Knights Templar, Rosicrucian, Freemasonry. Okay, Freemasonry is pretty much after, during the Crusade, that's when a lot of the Pope sanctioned a lot of the knights to protect the pilgrims as they were going towards Israel, and they were getting killed by Muslims. Therefore, the first crusade took place, and then there's all kinds of crusade. Now, at some point, the Pope found out that the Templar, the knights, were practicing paganism, and it was a solid proof. And so he had them killed. And then after they got killed, it now went under. All the knighthood went under. They became illegal. Then it sprouted again as Freemasonry, or Illuminati, is what people may call it. That's also, from those things, you would also have the other form of cults. And also from the Freemasonry is actually very strongly influenced by Marxism. So in essence, the Marxism justifies Freemasonry because Freemasonry's role is to actually divide and conquer and kill a lot of people. So you will see Marxism being right there, okay, with the Freemasonry. It is heavily justifying Freemasonry. So, Beyonce and being part of the Freemasonry, This is not this. Could you call this black woman? I mean, look at her. Not black. This is not a black woman. She's too light. She's just being used by the enemy because she has some charisma and she practiced Satanism and she practiced witchcraft. Okay, I have nothing against her skin color and I have nothing against. She's a beautiful girl. However, she is heavily demonic and she is being used to destroy many lives here in America and around the world. She's emanating, she is a vessel of demon, and we have to pray for her deliverance and pray for the protection of the children. That's my bottom line here. And one of the reasons why African Americans and Jewish people are being sucked into Freemasonry on a big time basis is because it's the concept of divide and conquer. You want as many Jews and African American that are actually perhaps coming from the Kohanim bloodline, because Kohanim are very charismatic. They are priestly people. So these bloodline that is meant to be teaching people end up getting sucked into the Freemasonry because of the love for money. So what people need to understand when you're talking about Zionism. What is Zionism? Definition means national movement for the return of Jewish people to their homeland and the resumption of Jewish sovereignty in land of Israel. So, those are the Jews and those are the Kohanim. Now, many of the Kohanim are actually, a lot of them are in Africa, and a lot of them are probably these African American people that are here, okay? Because the Kohanim, there are a lot of Israelites, and the Kohanim is coming from the line of Aaron. And in this line of priestly people that are meant to be following the Lord, they, when they got lost, some of the children, there's a promise unto these Kohanim people. When God makes a promise, He doesn't break it. So you can believe it. Okay, it says here, Jewish tradition based on the Torah is that all Kohanim are direct descendants of Aaron, the brother of Moses. The Kohen line is patrilineal, meaning from the dad, passed from the father to son without interruption for 3,300 years or more than 100 generations. Dr. Skorecki considered, according to tradition, the Sephardic Kohen and I have a common ancestor. Could this line have been maintained since Sinai? So they moved these Jewish people or this Israelite people from the line of Aaron. They ended up getting pushed to Egypt, and then they ended up in Africa, and then many of them could be sold as slaves, and they ended up in America. So some of them, there's a fraction of them that has maintained the tradition, and there are many of them that have lost their tradition and they lost the origin of their history. And so because of that, there's a lot of these fake Zionists. Okay, Zion is very important unto God because the gates of Zion is the most important one unto God. It says it right there. However, these Kohanims are meant to teach the people. So we have to pray for many of the Kohanim bloodline to go back to Israel, because then you will see a big change in how Israel is moving. It is meant to become more and more spirited, and many of these bloodline are going to have to come back to Israel. That's Zionism, bringing them back to their root, those who have lost. So the word remembrance is going to be very critical when praying for a lot of African American people, because most of them did not come from Africa. They came from Israel. They came from Israel. The bloodline did. So there are the Freemasonry. They wanted to classify people that came from that Kohanim bloodline as black. Now the Bible is written in black on white, by the way. So in the process of these Freemasonry trying to corrupt Jewish people and African American people, or this Kohanim, some of them are Kohanim bloodline, They wanted to negate the validity of the Bible. So if you kill all of the Jewish people, then you can say that the Bible doesn't exist. So, but anyway, I'm going to end it right here and we shall continue. Thank you and God bless.